Verse 596. A system of mentality may have its rise and fall owing to causation. When there is a dissolution of the system, there is neither birth nor annihilation. So a system of mentality, this is a way of thinking. A way of thinking. There are certain ways of thinking encouraged by the culture within we find ourselves, and there are certain ways of thinking, of reflecting that culture, depending on our own psychological disposition. This is the dynamic that we engage in. It's the dynamic which determines the tone of our existence. It's a dynamic which, as Enlightenment practitioners, we step beyond, we disengage from this dynamic. This might seem straightforward so far, but if you've been a spiritual seeker, if you've not been satisfied with the reality that's been fed to you, the one that you grew up in, if you suspect there's more going on than meets the eye, and there is, well then you'll go looking, you'll go searching. You might try various religions, or you might start getting into more esoteric stuff, theosophy, anthroposophy, yoga, and so on. But what's happening here is you're looking for understanding. Whether you go through science, religion, mysticism, you're looking for understanding. You're looking for a system of thought that makes sense to you. There have been a couple of items on the British television in the past few months featuring the infamous Westboro Baptist Church in America. They're rather a rabid, insensitive, anti-gay bunch of people. Although as people you can't help feeling they're actually very nice, and I can't help being impressed by their system of thought. It's very solid. It's very solid, and they have lots of answers within that system of thought. Now, I'm not recommending that system of thought by any means. It's dire and can justify the most brutal emotional and psychological suffering. Very good systems of thought can do this, and by good I mean coherent and consistent systems of thought. But coherent and consistent systems of thought are responsible for the most awful suffering, whether they're political or religious systems of thought. But the point is, these systems of thought provide answers, and people desperately need answers. And you might even turn to Buddhism and find a lot of solace in Buddhist systems of thought. And the main stream of Buddhist thought is very much bound up with causation. I think it's probably very similar in principle to cognitive behaviour therapy, although I'm no expert in that, so shoot me down in flames if I've got it wrong. But the point is examining the situation, examining the discomfort or the suffering that you're experiencing, examining the causes which give rise to that suffering. So there's the causes, and then remove the causes. This is the way we move ahead. It's a very good system of thought with many practical benefits. So the birth and the annihilation here mentioned in this verse could be understood as the birth which gives rise to suffering, and the annihilation, getting rid of that suffering. And that's useful. That's useful. And there's nothing wrong with going along with that. It's very practical. If you can apply that, good. But this is not the area we're working on here as Enlightenment practitioners. We're going deeper and looking at how we relate to the world generally. What do we want from it? What are we investing in? What are our desires? And rather than deal with these desires on their own terms, we come to the realization that the world has no intrinsic reality. It's like a dream, and we can wake up from this dream. So all the coming and going that's going on in the dream, we no longer understand as the coming and going of various things within the dream. We understand it simply as a dream. We no longer understand things in terms of what was going on in the dream. We step right outside of the dream. And we must do this with regard to spiritual teachings, especially those that have some great hopes for our future state of consciousness. The annihilation of everything bad and the birth of everything good. This is kind of how we see enlightenment, isn't it? Something totally positive and good, with not a trace of bad. Because the badness, the ego, has been annihilated, and a new state of being, an exalted state of being, has been given birth to. So really, we need to examine our attitudes to spiritual teachings, to spiritual understanding, and be prepared to let them all go. Because they can become a very subtle but very strong ego identification. And I would particularly point out, I think this is very true if you're into guru yoga. If you have a guru, especially a living one, well, actually it doesn't really matter. It tends to be a very egoistic exercise, unless you keep quiet about it. Keep it between you and your guru. It's so easy for the guru just to become another statement of who you think you are. As an Enlightenment practitioner, you need to go beyond your guru. So if you do have a guru, this can be a good opportunity, because each time you look at your guru, you realize, I must go beyond my guru. Go beyond all spiritual teachings and all spiritual teachers.